Всім добрий вечір.
On behalf of the brave, on behalf of every father and every mother who waits for freedom, on behalf of our warriors, and paves the way for a new history.
Hello and welcome to Tochnyi. I am actually stepping in for Joseph that normally announces the stream, but he's away, so I'm your host today. Today we have a really nice episode to look forward to because we're joined again by Gao and Gesh, and I'm looking forward to hear both of them their reports. Please share, subscribe, like the stream before I set over to Joseph's recorded news session.
These are the headlines as of December 15th, 2024. Ukraine announced on Saturday that it carried out an overnight strike on an oil storage facility in Russia's Oryol region, triggering a fire at the site. The regional governor of Oryol shared on Telegram that a fuel fire broke out at a location in the region following a large-scale drone operation. Ukraine's military leadership confirmed the attack targeted a significant oil depot in Stalnoy Kon, located approximately 165 kilometers within Russian borders. According to Ukrainian officials, this depot is a key component of a defense-related infrastructure network supporting the Russian military. Reports from Russian media included visuals of the incident, showing thick plumes of smoke rising against the night sky. The governor stated that Russian air defenses had intercepted the Ukrainian drones during the assault. By early morning, the fire had been brought under control but was still not fully extinguished. Ukraine's security service confirmed the use of domestically developed Sea Baby naval drones during a targeted operation in the Kerch Bay, Crimea, on the night of December 6th. According to the military counterintelligence department, the operation turned the tables on Russian forces, who had reportedly planned their own mission but became the focus of the Ukrainian attack. The Sea Baby drones, equipped with advanced weaponry, including large-caliber machine guns with automated targeting systems, engaged Russian forces after they initiated hostilities. Intercepted communications between Russian soldiers revealed significant casualties among Russian personnel, including deaths and injuries aboard helicopters hit during the operation. The helicopters reportedly sustained severe damage, rendering them in need of substantial repairs. The Ukrainian drone successfully targeted a barge transporting military supplies and repair materials for the Crimean Bridge, which remains under reconstruction following earlier strikes. A series of explosions shook the Russian-occupied city of Kyiv in Donetsk Oblast on December 10th, following what multiple unofficial sources described as a Ukrainian strike on a Russian ammunition depot. Kyiv is a significant city in Donetsk Oblast and has been under Russian control since 2014. The area serves as a key logistics and military hub for Russian forces, supporting troop deployments, equipment storage, and training activities in nearby regions. Over the past year, Ukraine has stepped up long-range drone strikes on Russian military and fuel facilities, disrupting essential supplies for the Russian military's operations. The Russian telegram channel Astra reported that the explosions likely resulted from an attack on an ammunition depot. Local reports suggest that the targeted facility was situated within a residential area close to a military training ground. Russian propaganda channel Mash na Donbas claimed that the attack involved 3 HIMARS rocket strikes with accompanying video footage showing secondary explosions and smoke rising after the impact. The Russian-installed head of the city announced an emergency evacuation of residents from 13 streets. He advised people to take essential belongings and identification documents, although no detailed explanation was provided. Occupying forces then cordoned off the affected area, advising residents to stay indoors, avoid windows, and seek shelter. Ukrainian officials have not confirmed their involvement in the strike as of the latest reports. Ukraine has made substantial progress in its military manufacturing, with several advanced missile and drone systems either entering active service or completing successful trials. At the 2024 Boris Paton National Prize of Ukraine award ceremony, Zelensky recognized 91 scientists from 12 research teams for their contributions to Ukraine's defense amid the ongoing war with Russia. He highlighted that while some of their work remains classified, it has already had a significant impact on Ukraine's military operation and the opposition that it faces. Zelensky announced that the Polyanitsa missile drone has now entered mass production, while the Peklo, translated as Hell missile drone, successfully completed its first combat missions, with the initial batch recently delivered to Ukrainian forces. He also noted ongoing trials for the Ruta missile and hinted at imminent deployment of the long-range Neptune system, which he described as a future threat to occupying forces. A senior Russian missile engineer, Mikhail Shatsky, was shot and killed near Moscow in what Ukrainian media claim was an operation carried out by Ukraine's intelligence services. Shatsky's body was discovered in the Kuzminki Forest Park, located in Kotelniki, a southeastern suburb of Moscow. He held the position of deputy chief designer and head of software at the Moscow Experimental Design Bureau MARS, which specializes in developing control and navigation systems for satellites and drones. The organization is affiliated with Rosatom, Russia's state nuclear corporation. Exiled Russian journalist Alexander Nevzorov, who first reported the killing, noted that Shatsky had played a key role in upgrading the Kh-59 missile into its Kh-69 variant, a low-altitude subsonic missile. These missile models, along with the Kh-101, have been frequently deployed by Russia in strikes against Ukraine. On the same day of the announcement, Ukraine's Air Force reported intercepting 2 Kh-59 and 69 missiles over the Dnipropetrovsk region. Several Ukrainian outlets, including RBC and Ukrainska Pravda, cited anonymous sources claiming the assassination was part of a Ukrainian military intelligence operation conducted by HUR. A source from Ukraine security services reportedly stated that individuals involved in advancing Russia's military capabilities are deemed valid targets for Ukraine's defense forces. An explosion in the occupied city of Donetsk targeted an off-road Toyota vehicle carrying Serhiy Yevsukov, the head of the Olenivka penal colony, and his wife. The blast, reportedly caused by an explosive device containing the equivalent of approximately 100 grams of TNT, were placed beneath the vehicle, and they left the car severely damaged, particularly the driver's seat. Russian media and telegram channels, including the Kremlin-aligned RIA Novosti, confirmed that Yevsukov was killed in the explosion. His wife survived but sustained severe injuries, including the loss of a leg, and is in critical condition in the hospital. Videos and photos circulating online show the aftermath of the attack, with bystanders attempting to assist the victims. Yevsukov was a collaborator with Russian forces who oversaw the Olenivka penal colony, notorious for its use as a torture facility for Ukrainian prisoners of war. In July 2024, the security services of Ukraine had charged him and his former deputy for their roles in the deadly attack on Olenivka prison in July 2022. During that incident, Russian forces carried out strikes on their own prison, killing and wounding numerous Ukrainian POWs. Evidence gathered by the SSU indicated that both Yevsukov and his subordinates knowingly delayed medical assistance for the injured, exacerbating the casualties. Both were charged with violations of international law regarding the treatment of prisoners. Despite being replaced in his position, Yevsukov remained in hiding in the Russian-occupied Donetsk Oblast. Russian forces have reportedly developed a traffic light-style system to detect FPV drones, aimed at bolstering their defense capabilities against the threats. According to the Ukrainian military outlet Militarny, citing military radio technology expert Serhiy Flesh Beskretsnov, the system is mounted on poles along strategic routes used for equipment movement. The system operates with 3 indicators to signal drone activity: no detected drones, nearby drones, and drones are at a greater distance. This setup provides early warnings for Russian forces about potential drone threats. Militarny speculates that the system likely operates using a frequency range analyzer similar to infantry detection systems. Alternatively, the detector might require manual operation, with an operator adjusting the alerts based on observed conditions. The system may also include a sound analyzer capable of detecting drones by the distinct noise of their engines, including those controlled by fiber optic connections. Up next we have economy and aid. Finland has announced its 26th defense aid package for Ukraine, with preparations already underway for a subsequent package. This was shared during a conversation between the Finnish president and Ukrainian president. During their discussion, President Zelensky emphasized Ukraine's urgent need for enhanced air defense systems and thanked Finland for its commitment to helping address these needs. The U.S. Department of Defense has announced a $988 million military aid package for Ukraine, aiming to provide critical support. The assistance includes ammunition for HIMARS rocket systems, UAVs, and comprehensive logistical support, such as spare parts to maintain, repair, and overhaul artillery systems, tanks, and armored vehicles. The funding for the package comes from Ukraine's Security Assistance Initiative, which allows for the procurement of weapons directly from manufacturers rather than transferring existing U.S. military stockpiles. Before the announcement, USAI had $2.21 billion in available funds, meaning this package utilizes nearly half of the remaining resources under the program. This marks the 22nd aid package provided through the USAI framework. In addition to the USAI package, on December 12th, U.S. President Joe Biden approved another military aid package for Ukraine using presidential drawdown authority. According to John Kirby, Strategic Communications Coordinator for the White House National Security Council, the latest package includes additional air defense systems, artillery, drones, and armored vehicles. The Biden administration is currently drawing on the remaining funds authorized by Congress to maintain this flow of support. Recent commitments by U.S. officials highlight the scale of assistance planned. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan announced the delivery of hundreds of thousands of artillery shells, thousands of missiles, and hundreds of armored vehicles by mid-January. Also, the United States is preparing to allocate over $440 million to support Ukraine's agriculture, infrastructure reconstruction, and economic development. This is announced by Richard Verma, U.S. Deputy Secretary of State, during a speech at the Center for Strategic and International Studies in Washington, focusing on U.S. contributions to Ukraine's post-war recovery. The funding is divided into 4 key initiatives: agriculture support, transportation and infrastructure, a recovery trust fund, and job training for the Reconstruction and Industry Program. Also, the U.S. State Department has approved a $266 million foreign military sale to Ukraine, focusing on the maintenance and support services of F-16 fighter jets. The package includes a comprehensive range of services and equipment necessary for the operation and upkeep of the aircraft. It covers joint mission planning systems, aircraft key loaders, engine upgrades, spare parts, repair support, and specialized software and training tools. Principal contractors for this initiative are Sabena from Belgium, Lockheed Martin Aeronautics in Texas, and Pratt & Whitney in Connecticut. The United Kingdom has introduced a new set of sanctions targeting illegal gold trading networks allegedly funding Russia's military operations in Ukraine. According to UK authorities, the sanctions include asset freezes for 5 individuals. 4 are reportedly involved in gold smuggling operations, while 1 individual is accused of purchasing Russian gold worth over $300 million US. These measures aim to disrupt financial flows that support Russia's continued aggression in Ukraine. Canada's House of Commons has approved a significant funding package totaling 764 million Canadian dollars, approximately 587 million US dollars, for military assistance to Ukraine. The funding is part of a larger budget proposal authorizing the government to allocate an additional 21 billion Canadian dollars for various initiatives, including national defense. According to Defense Minister Bill Blair, the allocated funds will support critical needs such as ammunition, training, and other essential resources to aid Ukraine in its fight for victory. The budget also includes 400 million Canadian dollars in financial aid for Ukraine to be distributed via a special account managed by the IMF. Furthermore, the Parliament approved 45 million Canadian dollars for initiatives focused on humanitarian demining and enhancing Ukraine's cyber resilience. Despite opposition from the Conservative Party, which voted against the spending increase amid calls for the government's resignation, the funding was approved on the last legally permissible day. The proposal now awaits a vote in the Canadian Senate, which is expected to occur soon for the measures to take effect. Norway has reaffirmed its commitment to supporting Ukraine's defense by continuing to train Ukrainian pilots for F-16 fighter jets, with plans to relocate the training program from Denmark to Portugal in 2025. The Norwegian defense minister announced the development on December 13th, emphasizing the importance of sustaining Western support for Ukraine. Since 2023, Norway has contributed aircraft, instructors, and technical support for the program hosted in Denmark. Portugal will take over as the host nation in 2 years as part of the Air Defense Coalition, which aims to bolster Ukraine's Air Force capabilities. Norway's Kongsberg Aviation Maintenance Services will also provide personnel to facilitate technical training for Ukrainian pilots. Ukraine is set to receive $454 million US from the World Bank to support the development and reform of its healthcare system. Prime Minister Denis Shmyhal announced the funding, which will target priority financing through the Healthcare Guarantee Program. The funds are part of the Thrive project, aimed at improving the efficiency and resilience of Ukraine's healthcare system. Shmyhal emphasized that the initiative is designed to ensure the system can effectively meet the challenges posed by the war. The funding is backed by contributions from the Government of Japan, the World Bank, and a grant from the Urban Resilience Trust Fund. It represents a collaborative effort to bolster Ukraine's healthcare infrastructure and ensure its functionality under current and future conditions. The European Bank for Reconstruction and Development, in partnership with risk management firm Aon, has introduced a €110 million guarantee program to address war-related insurance challenges in Ukraine. The initiative aims to support insurance companies in providing coverage for risks associated with land-based transport, particularly benefiting small and medium-sized businesses. The program will initially focus on vehicles and goods in transit, with no current plans to include fixed assets or maritime transport. However, the EBRD indicated that the facility might be expanded based on market needs. Partnering with Ukrainian insurers Ingo, Kolonad, and Uniqua, as well as international insurer MS Amlin, the program will facilitate annual insurance coverage of around €1 billion for goods in transit. The project was developed in coordination with Ukraine's economy ministry and the National Bank with the goal of restoring confidence among businesses that their assets are protected. Economy Minister Yulia Svirdenko welcomed the program, noting its significance for small and medium-sized enterprises severely impacted by the war. The program follows a similar initiative launched in August by the company Marsh McLennan, which introduced a $50 million insurance facility for grain shipments via the Black Sea. Up next, we have international relations. Norway is preparing to open a small office in Kyiv to support Norwegian businesses interested in contributing to Ukraine's reconstruction efforts, as announced by the Norwegian Ministry of Trade. The initiative aims to enhance economic collaboration and facilitate Norwegian companies' entry into Ukraine's recovery market. Since the onset of the full-scale invasion, Norway has been a key supporter of Ukrainian businesses through partnerships involving the Norwegian-Ukrainian Chamber of Commerce, or NUCC, the International Organization for Migration, IOM, and the Norwegian Embassy in Ukraine. Various programs have been launched to assist Ukrainian micro and small enterprises. Since 2022, the IOM, the International Organization for Migration, has collaborated with over 500 small businesses, helping to preserve existing jobs and create new employment opportunities. The proposed Kyiv office is intended to act as a strategic hub, staffed by a small team or single key personnel. It will help Norwegian companies navigate available resources, establish connections, and coordinate operations in Ukraine. The Norwegian Trade and Industry Minister emphasized the importance of the new office as a complementary measure to ongoing entrepreneurial efforts, noting that the business community had expressed the need for on-the-ground support in Kyiv. Russia's state oil company Rosneft has finalized a record-breaking energy deal with India, agreeing to supply 500,000 barrels of crude oil daily to Indian private refiner Reliance Industries over the next 10 years. According to sources cited by Reuters, the agreement is valued at approximately $13 billion and marks a significant development in the energy trade between the two nations. The new contract is expected to account for roughly half of Rosneft's seaborne oil exports from Russian ports. This comes at a critical time for Russia as European nations continue to reduce their dependence on Russian energy. Recently, the European Union announced new sanctions targeting Russia's shadow fleet and blacklisting oil and gas tankers allegedly involved in illicit fossil fuel sales. Satellite imagery from Maxar Technologies and Planet Labs reveals that Russia has begun withdrawing troops and equipment from Syria. The images captured at the Khmeimim Air Base show multiple aircraft, including AN-124 cargo planes, among the largest in the world, with a capacity of 150 tons, along with 3 IL-76 transport planes and smaller AN-32 and AN-72 cargo planes. These planes appear to be preparing for loading, as indicated by their raised nose cones. The imagery also reveals Russian forces disassembling equipment, including a Ka-52 attack helicopter and parts of an S-400 air defense system, both seemingly being readied for transport back to Russia. Maxar analysts also noted Russian ships departing from Syria's coastline into the Mediterranean Sea. Reports from Russian propaganda outlet TASS suggest that discussions are ongoing between Russia and the Syrian government to maintain Russian military bases in the country, despite the withdrawal of some forces. Supporting this, videos shared by Russian propagandists show military convoys headed towards Khmeimim Air Base, indicating ongoing logistical movements. The European Court of Human Rights has rejected a complaint challenging Ukraine's ban on the public use of the St. George ribbon, a symbol with contentious connotations linked to Russia's actions in Ukraine. The decision in the Borzych vs. Ukraine case, reported by European Pravda, upheld Ukraine's prohibition as lawful and within the state's discretion. The St. George ribbon, once widely used in Ukraine during World War II commemorations, has been replaced since 2014 by the red poppy, reflecting Ukraine's shift away from Soviet-era symbolism. The ribbon's association with armed groups in Crimea and the Donetsk and Luhansk regions, as well as its use by Russian forces during the ongoing war, transformed it into a divisive emblem. In 2016, Ukraine enacted legislation banning the ribbon as part of broader restrictions on symbols tied to communist and Nazi regimes. Manufacturing or promoting the ribbon became an administrative offense under the law. The case involved a former soldier, Yuri Borzik, who sought to wear the ribbon on Victory Day in 2017, arguing that the ban infringed upon his freedom of expression and was discriminatory. The European Court on Human Rights recognized the ribbon's evolving symbolism, particularly its link to Russian aggression. While acknowledging the restriction on freedom of expression, the court concluded that the ban was within Ukraine's, quote, margin of appreciation, the discretion allowed to states in addressing national challenges. The court noted that the prohibition does include exceptions, such as for ribbons issued as part of pre-1991 military awards, and determined that Ukraine's efforts to address wartime challenges were justified. The court also dismissed Borzyk's complaint as, quote, manifestly unfounded, stating that he failed to demonstrate significant emotional or practical harm caused by the ban. Furthermore, the prohibition applies universally, regardless of ethnicity or citizenship, and is seen as a response to the profound impact of Russian aggression on Ukraine. Ukraine's Commissioner for the European Court of Human Rights, Margarita Sokorenko, highlighted that the ribbon now symbolizes the suffering caused by Russian aggression. She noted that banning its use is a necessary measure reflecting Ukraine's struggle against the war and the emblem's connotations as a persistent link to their aggressor. The ECHR's decision aligns with similar action in other European countries where bans have been justified as responses to Russia's ongoing hostility toward Ukraine. And that's it for the main headlines for this week. We will now move to the next segment.
Thank you, Joseph, for presenting your report of the week's news. I will now set it over to my friend Dia Gao.
Oh, I think that's me. Hello, guys. As always, I will now present this week's most important news from Germany regarding Ukraine in this time a very short segment. We are starting with Thursday, when the German Minister for Economic Cooperation and Development did a surprise visit to Ukraine and announced that her ministry increased their recent pledged funding for repairing and improving Ukraine's energy infrastructure from 70 million euros to 90 million euros, so an increase by 20 million euros. With these funds, Germany finances 80 mobile combined heat and power plants, over 20 mobile boiler houses, transformers, hybrid generators, as well as 15 lifting platforms, the ones you see on the picture, for repairing central power lines. The German ministry announced that their pledged assistance, which will all be delivered before and during the current winter, will secure the heat and power supply for 2.6 million Ukrainians this winter. On Friday, the German city of Cologne reported that they will donate up to 30 decommissioned ambulances from the Cologne Fire Brigade to its Ukrainian twin city of Dnipro over the next 4 years. The city council approved a proposal regarding the plans from the city administration on Friday. And yeah, that's already my segment. Back to you, Erlend.
Thank you so much. No video.
No, I always look for interesting stuff. I have like 10,000 different videos of like 10 seconds, half a minute or so. But nothing new, interesting like the mother footage from like 1 or 2 minutes long. It's rare to find those.
Okay. Well, looking forward to the next, awesome video that you will present. Now, I'm very happy to have Geschlittert back, or as many of the non-German speakers call him, Gesh. Gesh is one of the gems of open source intelligence, and if you haven't seen the last segment he was on, he digs around a lot about Russian units, also Russian MIAs, and also sleepy Russians. But he's also doing some work on Ukrainian units, and today we're lucky to have more about the Ukrainian units from Gesh. And welcome, Gesh.
Hello. Thanks for having me. And yeah, well, I will start to share my screen again, and I want to start this segment again with crediting the people who helped me, because for Ukrainian units I wouldn't know nearly as much without the likes of Sirdo and Fiskan. Fiskan certainly doesn't have social media, but he's an absolute expert on Ukrainian units, and he, like, whatever you ask him, you
Just quickly close your dams,
Oh.
maybe. Yeah, be good.
Yeah, exactly. Very, very happy to work with them. I'm very happy that they helped me. So yeah, what I want to go over today. Last time I only had a section about Russian units, but today I also want to do something about Ukrainian ones. And
There's quite a lot of interesting news about this Ukrainian units lately. So I
Yes.
think it's. I'm very happy to get some actually good sourced information, because there's been a lot of clutter. So thank you so much.
Yes, it's very interesting. Okay, let's start with the first point, namely, for the people who don't know, Ukraine, they have a structure of tactical groupings, and those tactical groupings are like overseeing a certain segment of the front line. And today I want to shed light a bit on one tactical grouping in particular, namely OTU Donetsk, Tactical Grouping Donetsk. This tactical grouping spans from Novobakhmutivka in the north, all down to Velika Novosilka. As most people know, a very, very hot front sector, where Ukraine has lost a lot of territory in the recent months. And with the fall of Uledar and the subsequent push of the Russians with the push onto Pokrovsk, and even recently the fighting in Shevchenko. Yeah, and the commander of the OTU Donetsk has faced a lot of criticism in the recent months. And now Ukraine finally, and the Ukrainian military command has finally decided to replace him and to employ a new commander. And now it will be very interesting to observe if there will be any differences in the approach. And so yeah, one of the sources for the replacement here, I mean, it's even being reported on Financial Times. And I also want to shed light on some of the criticism he has faced from prominent figures in the Ukrainian army, such as, I mean, the deep state team has criticized him often, and also people like Officer Alex. I will give an example of what exactly he has told about it. I need to open this in the browser again. And in this post, he compared him to Sodor, another very infamous Ukrainian general who has been responsible for a lot of losses of Ukrainian personnel. So I think it's fair to say he wasn't liked in some circles at all. And we can hope that the new commander will improve the situation in the area. So yeah, that's the first point. Yes, there also has been some news about an infamous, sadly, Ukrainian brigade, namely the 152nd Jäger Brigade. To give some context, it is one of the newer brigades. It has been forming since like a year approximately, and we have seen deployment of them in the recent months. But the deployment wasn't normal at all. It was very, very but how to say it, out of the norm. Instead of being deployed as one brigade at the front line, a lot of different small teams of the units have been sent to other units. One of the examples for this is like the AA missile battery soldiers have been sent to the 15th National Guard Brigade. So, and likely been used as infantry in that sense, which is a very big waste of specialized personnel, and basically renders like, why would you have a brigade if you don't deploy it as a brigade, but just split up all the people and set it around. The proof for this is an MIA post on Facebook. And this is only one of many different cases of this happening, sadly, for this brigade. So yeah, 152nd Jäger Brigade, and they have been sent to the 15th National Guard Brigade, which is deployed in the Pokrovsk area as well. I mean, most of the people or battalions have been deployed in this area, but not as a cohesive unit. And with the recent article, and there was some more light shed on this issue with many reports about small teams of the units being sent away and never replaced, and there was some confusion about what the brigade actually should be, if it should be a Jäger brigade or a mechanized brigade, which also hindered the proper formation of the brigade. And yes, I think it's very important to also shed light on issues like this, so hopefully Ukraine in the future will not repeat it or will fix this. And
I mean, this is kind of a part of the many criticisms against creating new brigades that aren't really capable to function operationally as a brigade together, right? And that's a lot of people have been saying, let's introduce a division system because we don't have enough officers to actually run these many brigades, etc. So, what do you perceive this as one of the kind of issues that people have been pointing towards?
Yes, I very much think the current command system in the it's hard to say they shouldn't create new brigades. I don't not fully sure on this issue in particular, but what I'm sure on is the current command system in the higher echelons is not ideal. You know, with one thing, the brigades not being deployed as one, another thing, the brigades being constantly sent to other front sectors and not really being able to entrench or to get to know the front sector before being sent away again. You know, I can see this a lot for some Russian units where they have been at the same piece of land for like a year and a half. And this really helps the command and the soldiers to get to know the area, to get to fight more effectively. And yeah, and another thing is that the command structure isn't really that clear. There's some tactical groupings under other subordinated to other tactical groupings, and then it's not really clear if they have even any authority to decide something. And yes, I hope there will be some reforms. I hope this will be better in the future. It would greatly help.
Yeah, because essentially this it takes away the whole battlefield responsibility of the brigade, and essentially the command of the brigade is an HR department for personnel that is deployed elsewhere. Not ideal use of personnel, if that's the case.
No, not at all. And it also undermines the trust in the Ukrainian army. You know, why would people want to join the army if they don't feel like they're being treated properly, or if they feel like they're being lied to? Like nobody wants to, not come back from war. They want the best possible treatment, and sometimes it sadly isn't provided.
Yeah, I hope that some of the reforms that are that have been announced will will address a lot of these issues because it's important. That by the way, this is not the case in every brigade or everywhere,
No.
but they exist.
That's actually also an important point. It's important to look at issues that the Ukrainian army has, but it's also very important to not just eat up every report about something happening. Very recent one is the deployment of the 155th Ukrainian Mechanized Brigade. If you don't know, this is the brigade that was trained in France, mostly supplied by France. They had some issues, or they have some issues that they reportedly haven't gotten any drones or EW material, which is because the Ukrainian army didn't provide the funds. And recently, in famous Ukrainian politician Bitsula has reported that they have been split up like the 152nd Brigade. And of course, you could go, no, yeah, Ukraine is doing it again, but we have no evidence for this yet. There's no evidence for this. We know that the commander has been changed likely just before the deployment. Here's a report from military land, a great resource on Ukrainian units, by the way. And we know that the command of the 155th has changed. We know that they likely have been deployed. I can show evidence for this as well. We have recently gotten an MAA for Shevchenko. If you don't know where Shevchenko is, it's in the Pokrovsk front. Here. And there has been some heavy fighting there. There have been some Ukrainian pushes there to reclaim the territory, because it's now getting dangerously close to the supply lines of Pokrovsk itself, even closer than before. It could get within range of FPV drones now, and not only artillery. And we have, I will now present. And we know that one of the soldiers of the 155th Brigade, I mean, everything is up, the ID, they mentioned the brigade and everything. He has been deployed there. We don't know if the whole brigade has been deployed, if it's another case like the 152nd. So it's always very important to just look at the information that you can verify. Yes, but there's another thing that I want to shed light on. We have seen one rumor, it's a rumor, that a strong or a new brigade or a strong brigade has been deployed in the Shevchenko area. And this could mean that this person meant the 155th. We don't know yet. I mean, it aligns with the deployment of the 155th Brigade. So it could just be that the whole brigade has been deployed there. And yes, but it's hopefully they will perform well. Hopefully Ukraine will push back the Russians in this area. Yes, this is the information I wanted to share about the 155th Mech. And always try to practice as much information hygiene as possible. Always try to verify the information that you get. It's very important.
Who do you think this strong brigade is? Do you have any suspicion?
Not really. I think it might be the 155th. That's the only one where we know that they've been recently moved there. That's
okay. So the strong brigade mentioned is likely the 1-5.
Maybe.
Okay.
It could also be that the 72nd has been deployed again. I mean, they have been off the line for a long time now. If you don't know, I mean, they have been the brigade who has been holding Vuhledar for for a very, very long time, for more than a year, and have in the capture of Vuhledar have likely lost a lot of their combat power. And they have been reconstituting in the Kherson region since then. And, maybe they have been deployed again. I don't know. we have no evidence of that yet. I mean, it will be interesting if they can reconstitute properly, if they can get back to full combat power, and I hope so. Yes.
Yeah, ideally it would be good if the 155th mech can operate as a brigade. I've heard only good things about the training in France. I do know they trained a lot with not conventional methods that has been more adapted towards what Ukrainians criticized about the training of the Western brigades that were equipped in the winter and spring of 23, where the criticism was that drones weren't calculated as a part of the operational training, so small drones, and that basically a lot of the training was outdated for the war, etc. But I've only heard that the French have tried to address this and that the training has been good. So hopefully the problems will be resolved.
Yes.
I'm sad to hear that they rushed the brigade into battle, to be honest.
I mean, the situation is very hot. I don't think they have many options sometimes. Yes.
Yep. Okay, so is that all? What do you have about the Ukrainians, or
yes,
are there
that's
more?
all I wanted to say today about the Ukrainians.
Cool.
And I will now move on to some news or some updates about the Russians and the Russian frontline, the Russian units. And today again, I will focus on Kursk, because there's a lot of, again, interesting stuff happening there. And I want to shed light on one thing about Kursk: the sheer density of Russian units deployed here on the western flank in a very small area. Actually, there are two whole Russian VDV divisions deployed there, namely the 76th Air Assault Division with basically all the units. Then the 106th Airborne Division with basically all the units. I mean, of the 106th, when Ukraine tried to push into Veseloe, they were fighting there, and now they have highly likely been moved back to this front sector around Torino. Then there also is the 83rd Air Assault Brigade fighting here, the 155th Naval Infantry Brigade, and the 56th Air Assault Regiment, all of them fighting in this area. And very recently, which is an interesting development in my opinion, the 34th Motor Rifle Brigade has been sighted again. About them, before this sighting, the last time we have seen them was in April, and they have been fighting around Priutne. That's the Staro-Majorsk area. And since then, we haven't really seen any fighting of them. And now, again, another of the reconstituting brigades have been deployed up to Kursk. And more of the Russian reserves, as I talked about last time, the 104th Air Assault Regiment, for example, have now been committed to Kursk. And they're trying the hardest to push back the Ukrainians here. They're losing so many vehicles that we have seen recent videos of them just in the north moving by foot. And yeah, it's a very intense area with a lot of fighting going on all the time, with an extremely high density of troops, especially on the western flank, where 2 divisions, 2 brigades, and 3 brigades and a regiment are trying to push into the Ukrainian held territory. Yep.
It's kind of significant to mention that if the Russians do manage to push from the west towards Sucha, the only road in and out is kind of threatened. It's already very close in
Yeah,
the
that's
sense
it.
that the Russians can fire artillery on this road.
Yes, the Ukrainians basically have one proper supply road into the Kursk salient with the R200 road going here to Sucha and supplying the whole front. So yeah, one a bit different topic. It's just a small and interesting piece of information that I think shows very nicely what can also be done with collecting MAA data. Namely, I've recently come across some interesting Russian losses, and I could link it to this to this TOS loss. This TOS loss, this TOS 1A, it's a thermobaric rocket. How do you say it?
Yeah, it's a
rocket launcher?
MLR.
Yeah. Has been lost near Terni on the 3rd of April. And recently, I've come across 2 posts which very likely are related to this very event. And I want to share it. Where do I have it?
Yeah, as a reference, the TOS-1A is the Russian rocket artillery that shoots out a thermobaric bomb, or what some people like to refer to as a vacuum bomb. Creates an overpressure wave, which is very, very destructive and deadly.
Yep. And I could now link this very loss to a specific Russian unit, namely the 11th Russian CBRN regiment. And we have actually 2 maybe unique MA reports. The problem is this person hasn't mentioned the full name of the missing soldier, and this post hasn't mentioned the call sign, so I can't be for sure. But the date and the type of unit and the area all perfectly line up with this very loss. And yes, I just wanted to show this as a kind of interesting information, how we, with the information that we can acquire, can know which soldiers exactly were involved in the videos that we see without by just searching the internet and collecting all the data, and then we find out in this explosion it was likely this guy.
He fell asleep.
Yeah,
probably.
He was very warm afterwards, for sure. Yep.
Interesting. I've heard some rumors about, or more intense rumors about North Korean soldiers being visually confirmed, or at least someone has said they were assaulted by North Korean soldiers. What do you know about this?
We might have seen the first North Korean deployment. I can't say for sure, but there have been a lot of reports in the Ukrainian Telegram sphere where they said it was North Korean soldiers. A very prominent soldier that I have quoted before, namely Kriegsforscher, has said, well, that's the funny thing. It's a bit conflicting what he said. At first, he said it's no Koreans in the footage that has been provided and geolocated by Moklassen, or not provided by Moklassen, but geolocated by Moklassen. And at first, he says it's no Koreans in the footage, and when asked again, he said it was a combined assault between with Russians and the North Koreans. So maybe he has received new information in the meanwhile and has updated his opinion or his stance. So we likely have seen the first deployment of North Korean soldiers in this war, the first proper battlefield deployment. And another interesting thing is they just as an information, they are mostly attached to the 810th Naval Infantry Brigade, which is operating around mostly this area. They have also had subunits involved in the capture of Blakovo. But most of the forces are up here at the north, and this footage was also geolocated in this area. I mean, we can just go for the link for the coordinates, and yep, yes, it has been geolocated up here. And a very, very interesting thing about this footage is, again, there was no vehicles involved. They have been solely moving by foot, which, yep, which is a bit weird. It seems like maybe the Russian generals don't really care that much about those North Korean soldiers, which is a very bad statement to send to other North Korean soldiers who might be deployed here in the future, or to the North Korean soldiers that are fighting for the Russians, because you don't want to throw your life away like this. And what is also interesting, Ukrainian commentator has stated that the North Korean soldiers are actually likely better trained or more proficient than, or more motivated than a lot of the Russian soldiers, because they have been training together for a very long time, while Russian soldiers often get thrown to the front line after 2 weeks of training. They don't really have any unit cohesion with the other guys, because while the North Koreans haven't really been fighting a war in their lifetime, in the lifetime of those people. So they have been, living and training, and they've been together with the comrades for a very long time, and have a deeper bond and likely more loyalty to them. And yeah, this Ukrainian commentator has only had some compliments actually about the combat abilities. The big thing is they're not used to drone combat whatsoever. I don't think they have really been training for this at all in North Korea. And the big question is, have they been training for this in Russia? Because we know they were in some of the training grounds in eastern Russia. But yes.
Well, so the thing is, what I can imagine is that they are easier to isolate, in the sense that they won't receive the same kind of information about what is actually happening other places in the front line than the Russians.
I mean,
So
they have just recently been exposed to the internet, a lot of them, apparently. I mean, from the maybe likely
rumors has it that they
know that North
discovered.
Koreans are very isolationist after all, and now they are in an area that's not nearly as isolationist. So yeah, it just makes sense that they have a lot more information about the world now than they had a few months ago.
Yeah, but still, it's probably easier to isolate them compared to the Russian units, and I wouldn't be surprised if they actually do behave, at least with a more cohesion and less probable, less problems with morale. By the way, could you maybe full screen that EMI thermal drone footage, because I think it's,
Can we show it?
Yeah, if you maybe just a still frame.
Yeah, it shows.
You can see infantry moving over a field, as you referenced that there were more cases of people moving without vehicles. I don't know if this is specifically what they're talking about, but this is interesting.
Yep, it's very interesting tactics being shown here, to say the least.
We have seen it from the Russians before, but I can't really say I've seen this in Kursk before.
No, we have seen we have seen a lot of massive vehicle assaults in Kursk, with a lot of vehicle losses as well. It shows another interesting bit is, as I've mentioned before, a lot of the units here are VDV units who Oimbubi says there's nothing dangerous in this video, then I can show it because I know he wouldn't lie to me about this. So yeah, about the vehicles used by the VDV units, they are often more lightly armored than the they use, for example, the BMD-4M, which is more lightly armored than the equivalent in the ground forces like the BMP-3 or the BMP-2. And this means they have a lot more catastrophic losses for those vehicles, where the whole vehicle just disintegrates and don't really leaves a chance for the people inside to escape.
Yeah.
Just
this is an
additional point
interesting
of
development
information.
in tactics, I would say.
Yep, and it will be interesting to see more about the North Koreans. And I think from the commentary that I've seen, it's highly likely that this was actually them, and then that they have been actually deployed now, because it has come from more reputable sources as well.
There's also some videos of circulating of a drone flying over a bunch of very sleepy people in a
yes, but
field.
this is a collection point. This is not actual at the combat line. This is a typical footage of a loss collection point. You know, where they put all the sleeping people, where they collect them and all put them there.
Yes, I know, but it was heavily rumored that at least some of these are North Koreans, but no confirmation at all. So it's impossible to verify from those drone images.
Yeah, that's the limits that we have as well in our research. You know, we can't sadly can't verify everything easily. You know, soldiers on the ground can check way easier than we could do because we are not actually there. Yeah, but that's basically it about my part this week, and I want to ask if there are any questions.
Well, I have a question about losses in Kursk, because I've read some commentary suggesting that losses in Kursk now have reached kind of some new peak. Do you know anything about this compared to when you were on the stream the last time?
From what I know, the assaults have intensified. Yes, there have been now more units committed to the front sector. There have been more intense assaults. So yes, I can agree with the statement. You know, two of the regiments, for example, that were previously, you know, a lot of the regiments are now concentrated in this very small area, and it's certainly more intense now than it has been. Yes, I can agree with the statement.
And also I have a question about Ukrainian units in Kursk, because we don't see so much information about the Orbat anymore from Kursk, but we know that, for instance, the 47th are more heavily placed there than it was confirmed in the beginning. They pulled out of Glushkovo and are basically operating inside the salient, right?
Yes. For the people who don't know, the 47th has, before the deployment in Kursk, been operating in the Pokrovsk area, and have not immediately at the start, but after some time, been deployed in the Kursk area. Yes, and they have been, from what we can see, been fighting very effectively there, and are repelling Russian attacks nearly on a daily basis, basically.
As far as I understood, they set up quite a good rotation system there, and have a good logistics apparatus to keep the capabilities at top level, or at least at a constant level for longer periods of time. So they're prepared to stay there for a while, as far as I know.
Yep. I mean, generally, most units that we could see in Kursk have been performing, from the Ukrainian side, have been performing very, very well. There have been some some big mistakes. I mean, if you remember the push about Snagorsk, where I don't exactly remember which unit it was. It was a TD. It was a territorial defense battalion, which
They took over
as
the
West.
defense
Yes,
from
exactly.
they relieved another unit, and then
Exactly,
it
and they
didn't
have
work out.
failed there sadly, and that's why the Russians could push back from here. But still, the Ukrainians are defending very, very well in this area, and they're inflicting heavy losses on the Russian side. That's, I mean, we can see it every day.
Yep.
And in all different channels, from video footage to MIA numbers. As I said, the 810th Brigade has absolutely insane MIA numbers. It's not something I've actually seen before. I mean, maybe we will see its 15th iteration soon. But yeah, that's a bit of a over exaggeration, by the way. It has not had 15 iterations. But yeah, I think that's, yeah. If there's no, I mean, if someone wants to ask a question.
Yeah, or is there any more questions from the other people in the panel? No, doesn't seem like it. So
No, not for me, sorry.
thank you so much. I think that means you gave a very good report, since there are no more questions. I think this is really, really interesting, and I'm looking forward to have you back on again soon.
Thank you. I'll also look forward to be back someday
Cool.
again. It will take some weeks because Christmas is coming up, but then I'm looking forward to it.
Great. Okay. I guess last minute I forced Daniele to to do some mapping stuff, because some stuff have been happening in Russia the last few days, and some sabotage, some quite interesting UAV attacks. So yeah, welcome, Daniele.
Good evening to everyone. And no, you didn't force me. Come on.
No, I asked if you could.
No, I was already planning to come, but I didn't plan to show much tonight. But yeah, it's a good opportunity to show the progress that we have made on the map, and also to show what happened in the last few days. In reality, couple of nights. I'm going to share, so apologize to the audience if the share may be not exactly perfect, but I'll do my best to don't go too fast, because the map can be disorientating. So I'm going to show these. Okay, now it should be visible to the audience. Can you see?
Yes.
Okay, so what you are seeing here now is the version 2.0, 3.0, I don't know how many versions I've done of the map, which essentially include a series of amount of information. As you can see, we can go around from not only distilleries and oil refineries, but also training ground, air bases, air defense, radar, and many other things. So I'm going to disable some of the stuff to show essentially what we want to talk tonight, which is mainly oil refineries and a bridge. There is also an attack with kind of loitering munition, but in reality is essentially a small airplane fitted as a drone in Chechnya. But I didn't have the time to fully analyze the videos, the geolocation. So we can discuss about that later. But I want to just show something regarding, yeah, you see, once you clean the map, it's much easier. So, and then remove air defense. And you can see Moscow, just to give is very much a fortress at the moment. You can see how the air defense is, of course, this doesn't capture everything, every single system. We couldn't do that, of course. But you can see how certain regions of Russia are particularly well defended. Murmansk is here. And of course Moscow. You can see there is a complete ring around Moscow. Sorry for this digression, but I think it's very nice.
I think that's St. Petersburg. Murmansk is a little bit more north.
More north. Oh yes, you're right. This is St. Petersburg. Yes, I think because I remember that this is another bit and another bit here. You can see that there are 1, 2, 3, and 4. These are the biggest concentration of air defense. And if you go east, there is just a little bit across the border, but essentially it's nothing compared to what you have in western Russia. And it's just to show how interesting is this work, because allow us to see things in a more complete environment. So now the first thing that I want to show you is regards the Orel refinery. Let me remove the Russia border, so it's no. I know is the okay. So and now I put so so we got a report about the attack on Orel refinery. This refinery is essentially not one of those that we immediately captured in our first work with several members at Tochnyi. We tried to investigate about oil production in Russia, but this one essentially skipped under the radar. And it didn't because it's small. In fact, you can see its capacity is around 0.135 megaton of oil processed per year. So it's quite substantial. It's not small by any mean, but was essentially in an area which we didn't look too much, honestly. And what happened essentially, we from what we can report, from what we gathered as intelligence, open source intelligence, we understood that this refinery was hit by mainly drones. So of course we start to do this work to thinking about missile, but this is still an area that is vulnerable due to the proximity with the Ukrainian border to drone attack. And also this type of facility are quite vulnerable because of course is a refinery. So despite you can harden the building, and this has not been hardened by any means. In the video you can see that this area was attacked, and essentially the fire slowly propagated through the facility. And I think still burning. This morning was still burning. So the attack was quite successful. I think most of these areas has been destroyed, and so the damage could be even more severe than what looks like at the moment. So only in a few days we will be able to see, if weather allows, to see what's going on there. But this is just one of, as you can see, I put this as destroyed because I don't think this refinery will be back soon in operation. Also because it's quite small in terms of size. There are others that are way larger. And so even if you take out a small part of it, they may continue to operate. So the next work that I would like to do is trying to use some sentinel images, if we have luck, to try to identify exactly what has been blown up. It's very likely that is these area, so these tanks, but would be nice to see if also these has been attacked, because these are of course closer to the actual plant. So would be very interesting to analyze these. And that's for what regards Orel refinery. So the other substantial important oh, thank you, Thierry. Yeah, is an oil depot. Yeah, and the other point that we really wanted to highlight on the map was essentially an attack on this bridge. So this bridge essentially is it's quite far away if you look at the distances. I mean, look at if we put the 700 mark is from the border, essentially 700 kilometers roughly. So and wasn't hit by, of course, a missile. So it has been an act of sabotage in that case. And
Daniela, try to not zoom so much on the map because it's
apologize. Yes, the first time that I'm doing the sharing, so I will keep
because
those.
it's rendering very slowly, I think.
Oh yeah, this is an issue that we currently have, so I'm trying to don't move. So as you can see, this is a bridge that is an overpass on the railway, which is here, which by the way conducted to another bridge, but this is the railroad bridge. So this is a very important logistic node for the Russian. Now I'm going to zoom a little bit and add also the ammo depot, because you will see that there are a lot of ammo depot on like one is here. This is the 31st Arsenal of the Navy, and there are many others along this entire line. One thing that probably would be good in the future is to add the railroad to show the connection. So I'm zooming, yeah. And essentially this little point looks like a small and far away, but essentially act as a severe point of connection between whatever is on this other side of the river with the more western part, which, as you can see, is filled with the other ammo depot. So and another important point is that most of the time we have seen also in analyzing recent image from eastern Russia, that the more advanced and even not the more advanced ammo depot are still in use, in the sense that they are going under a process of emptying. So they are trying to essentially take material from Far East and bring on the western part. And this, of course, relies on transport that can happen only on trains and railroad. So any point like this, it is a very big blow to the Russian, because it's very difficult then to move this enormous amount of material by road. It's possible, but it's even more complex. And so that's the second point that I wanted to present. I don't know if there are questions about that. Also from the panel. If you want to see something in particular.
Thierry is saying some very important targets still are not shown on the map. The Black Sea is from huge importance for Russia. So targets like oil loading facilities for tankers, gas compressors for pipes, etc. I guess.
Yeah.
But I think maybe he's talking about the map that is currently online on the website.
Yeah. It's possible. So on the website you don't have this map. This crazy stuff is only on my computer at the moment. We didn't put this because, of course, once we put this online, we will need to update every time an attack is done, and it could be very hard to follow everything. So I'm trying to follow and put on the website only the ammo depot, because it's only one type of target and it's very easy to follow. If we start to do this on everything, it might be more challenging. It may happen in the future, but not at the moment. So, for example, another things that I'm currently doing, I don't know, I will wait a few seconds so the refresh will happen. But in this map, I hope now you see that, is the ammo depot map, but with different color scheme for each ammo depot, in order to show you what type of class the ammo depot is. And in particular, you can see that we identified the three type of class, from class 1, 2, and 3. Class 1 are the older one, mainly from Soviet era, without any hardcover magazine, only a above ground magazine, so AGM. Second class are those with some ECM from Soviet era, and the third class are essentially torpedo-like. Now, if you look at the map, you will see that there are not many red, essentially class 3. There are some class 2, but they are essentially in much smaller number compared to what you have, for example, in terms of the blue one, the class one. So this type of map allow us to understand how big is the difficulties for the Russian to move in a secure way from production site and essentially Eastern Russia to the frontline material, because essentially you have to try to spread your war material across all these ammo depot, but not all of them are as good as, for example, a class 2 or a class 3. So they really need to take risk, and these have to be calculated risk. And if you go in the 300 region, so the closer to the front line, you have essentially only a few ammo depot, and just only 3 are good enough. And if you even zoom, they're not even that great, and some have been already attacked. Okay, now I choose this one, probably one of the smallest, and it will show up at some point. You can see this is quite small, has some hard-covered magazine. So the entire point of of this analysis is trying to understand at which rate the Russian can sustain the war effort with less and less safe place to store war material, in particular ammunition, rocket, and whatsoever. But yeah, sorry.
Yeah, I guess that would mean they would have to push more air defenses to protect them.
Yes, and this is why on the other map, you are going to hate me tonight. I'm trying to go slow. We put also air defense, because, for example, you can eliminate most of the stuff and leave only air defense and radar, and you will see essentially how they are located. You can see that there is kind of a defense line in the occupied territories and in the southern western part of Russia, but essentially there is very few installation in this area. I don't know if you see my arrow, because most of the stuff has been located in Moscow. The amount of the air defense system in Moscow is just insane, but doesn't mean that most of the important part is in Moscow. In Moscow, you have it's the capital, of course. So, and despite these, we have seen, for example, in this case, the 107th, which is a class 3, has been attacked. Not very particularly successful, but was attacked. I can show you how it looks like. But it's one of the largest facilities that they have in the area. This is a really a big facility. And what they say that has been attacked is this area, but I have my doubt that they have attacked this area. In the images, we have like this area of the site completely blackened. So I think the drone or what was trying to attack the ammo depot just crashed in this area and created a fire. I don't think anything has been really hit here, but these show a methodology also of the Ukrainian. Ukrainians are trying to hit high value target like this one. These are all ECM. This entire part is completely new. This part has been built between 2014ish, 2017, and most of the newer building are done after Crimea or immediately before. As I say that to you, Erlend, always, it's crazy how you look at this type of development in perspective, because as soon as you start to study what they have done in the past, you understand that they were preparing for this, and they tried to get prepared.
Yeah, they did a lot of work that must have cost a lot of money to reorganize and get some more efficiency out of their logistics.
And logistics is for sure one of the things that is limiting their capability of waging war, and I think is their weakness. And this is why this type of strike are very important, because we have seen now, I can't even stop sharing unless there is, I mean, if someone would like to see something else, I can share, there is no problem. And we have seen like the decrease in use of artillery munition, and also the decrease in the use of fab bomb. Now, I think that this is a very good sign, but of course is the result of combined effort, combined action of different type that contributed into this very good effect. And one of these is, of course, is the attack on ammo depot and on logistic infrastructure.
Yep. Also, there were a couple of attacks lately. In 3 days or 2 days, there were 2 attacks on Grozny. So I guess that made Joseph's favorite Russian, or not Russian, very happy. I don't know if Joseph is with us now. No, I don't think so. Anyways, I know Joseph thinks it's very amusing when Kadyrov gets pissed, and he was not very happy the other day. I haven't seen what he's written today about the attack today, but he was definitely not pleased about the attack on Grozny, and swore to revenge on 100 times the souls for each injured Chechen fighter. So we'll see.
Yeah, what was very interesting from the video, which, by the way, we live in on some aspect we live in a terrific period, because we have seen the video from probably a civilian looking at this airplane just flying over houses and then plumbing in the military barracks. And so you see this video from the distance, and then you see the video from the ground, from probably a Kadyrovites, so a soldier that was there who made the video, and you can clearly see this airplane going down and landing and exploding then on the building. And it's incredible, because we have essentially the entire there is no way to say that this is false or fake. And one thing that I was very impressed is the fact that the base was not in alarm. There was very little shooting. There was no significant work of air defense in terms of even heavy machine gun. It was probably people with Kalashnikov trying to shoot down these quite large UAV, essentially, because it was a small Cessna, essentially. It's or something even smaller, but essentially it was an airplane converted into drone. So you need something with some punch to take it down. But it was nothing. Essentially, it was look like an abandoned base rather than a military base of a nation at war. So, I mean, I'm always surprised by how people react to stuff like this.
Yep. So we've also been joined by Colby. If you don't have anything more, Daniela, I'm going to ask Colby one of the questions from chat.
Yeah, I'm okay. If there is any question that came up, I'm very happy to reply. Thank you.
I think Thierry was commenting a lot about the map, but you basically explained. Yeah. Anyways, welcome, Colby. Glad to have you back.
Thank you.
Kellen is asking you, is it plausible or realistic for US to rush the entire 7.1 billion in aid to Ukraine before the 20th of January? And then what kits Ukraine need most that Europe cannot provide?
No, it's not. The administration keeps talking about doing a surge, but we haven't really seen that materialize very much, even just in as far as what they've committed, let alone delivered, which is obviously the important part, because saying that you're going to announcing a new drawdown and delivering the contents of that drawdown is obviously two very different things. And there's no real-time way that I can actually track what's getting in beyond what I hear from the Ukrainians, which is still sort of anecdotal because they're not sharing exact figures with me. But just simple math tells you that they realistically cannot deliver the full value of equipment that is for. They can deliver more than what they're currently giving, but they certainly won't be all of it. As far as the things that Europe can't provide, a long-range strike is an obvious category where we have Storm Shadow and Scalpy G stocks are quite depleted, and the French are still not being very transparent about exactly what they're doing in the way of signing new contracts for new missiles. So it's really, that's one thing where the United States, only the United States has ATACMS. Nobody in Europe has those, or anything equivalent, or the countries that do have some probably won't give a whole lot. The United States would have to approve those transfers in any case, and that's certainly not a sure thing. And then things like JASM, obviously, SLAM-ER, these would all be very useful. And I actually just have a piece out for the Insider now. It actually got posted yesterday, talking about the things that can be done. So I'll be posting probably tomorrow a little sort of summary of what I think ought to be done in these final weeks. And if people want to look more into that, then they can read my latest for the Insider that goes into this topic.
Yeah, thank you. There's a follow-up question from Thierry. So in add to Callan's questions, is there any chance to get AGM 158A or B before Biden leaves the White House?
A, yes. B, no. I mean, yes. I mean, Biden could have given this a long time ago. He should still give it now. It's one of the systems that I make the argument that he should give. You know, they could be transferred in quite short order. The integration is pretty much already there with the F-16s. So it's operationalizing that shouldn't take very long, but the transfers in any case could happen pretty much immediately. So
that's the JASM, by the way. So A is the shorter range version,
yeah,
and B is the longer range version.
One of the long range versions, yes. A is baseline JASM, and then JASM extended range. There's several different variants within that, but B is the first model of the JASM ER. So that will not be provided and should not be provided. But there are a number of baseline A models that could and should be provided, and that wouldn't have really any impact on the U.S. Air Force. But they can't afford to give up even a single ER, really. Their inventory is already far below what it needs to be to fight a war with China. So I wouldn't advocate for those being given up, and they won't be in any case. Zero probability that happens. So
yeah, thank you. So do you want to say anything more about that piece that you have up on Insider?
Sorry, do I have what?
Do you want to say anything more about the piece that you just published on the Insider?
Oh yeah, I mean, they asked me just to write about, you know, one, what can Biden do in his final weeks in office here, and then a little bit about what we might expect the incoming administration to do, which is still mostly guesswork. But just I provide a few thoughts on that topic, but ultimately we still have, you know, we have to wait till he gets inaugurated to kind of see what actual decisions get made, because right now the only real indicator we have is sort of the designations of different key personnel, Secretary of State, you know, et cetera. General Kellogg is the special envoy. So we're a little bit about that, but primarily about sort of what the United States can still do, and what U.S. allies as well can potentially do as well to put Ukraine on a better footing going into the new year. So, and again, I'll probably post on Twitter a little sort of summary highlighting the key points. But for those that want to read it, it's already posted as of yesterday. So, and thanks for putting it up on the screen there.
Yep. I will certainly put the link in the video description as well. Thank you. There is also another question. Okay, I'm going to first go to Marino. Well, I'm going to first go to his second question and then to the first one. What can we expect from the French Ministry of Armed Forces Task Force to support Ukraine led by Major General Cédric Dugardin? Does anyone in the panel have any good information about that?
This is the first I'm really hearing of it, to be honest. So I don't know what whether there's a mandate letter or anything along those lines that was published indicating what the intention or what President Macron's intention is with this new task force. Yeah, I think I'll leave it at that. I could make a snide remark, but I'll decline to do that, I think.
Yeah.
Can I
yes,
jump?
Daniele.
So I've been following in the last few months since the UK chief general came to Ukraine in full combat uniform. There have been a couple of other European chief of staff or other senior member of the army coming in Ukraine and showing up in full uniform, discussing bilateral and direct collaboration. The latest one was Lithuania, and I think this question from Marino comes from a very similar type of visit between these this French general and the counterpart, the Ukrainian counterpart. So I think this is something that is happening in general in Europe. We have to wait and see why this is happening. Of course, this type of discussion can be very much like only show up, but let's see. But this is not the first time that we see this type of missions from a European country to Ukraine. It's a very specific one. It's not politicians that go, but military staff that meet with other counterparts and discuss. So we will see what what these will bring. But yes, just to underline that this is not the time that we see some kind of military stuff that go to Ukraine to discuss. So maybe that is good, maybe not. We'll see.
Yeah, I was posting the link in the description. The first question, though, from Marino, I think, is back to Daniela's part again. Is there any specific idea behind the recent attack on Grozny?
Oh, I mean, I think we discussed this together as well with other members. The attack essentially was just a single airplane destroying like a barracks. I mean, I don't think this is more than or a psyops or some particular, they're trying to probably keep the pressure on Kadyrov, keep the pressure in Chechnya, and this makes sense. And probably even the explosion of that bridge, all this type of sabotage and inside operation, I think are operation that are not going to have a tactical effect on the battlefield, but they are trying to shape a strategic objective. So trying to destabilize and trying to create chaos in Russia. I see them as it is. I mean, they are not going to change an inch in what is happening on. It's not like a strike on a big oil depot or a big ammo depot. It's just a very small but impactful event that can shake something or keep the nerve tense and also increase the dilemmas for Putin, but also for Kadyrov and all the people that work with them. At least this is my idea. I don't know.
I think you're probably right that maybe there's some small real targets. I do think they pick out the most important targets that they can damage, which can have some sort of minimal effect. But I do think that in general terms, the largest effect you have of these sort of operations that are deep into Russia, especially Gesh, by the way, you have a hot mic. No problem. So I think the largest effect is probably psychological, and also possibly also you have some certain targets that are very high value when it comes to these assassinations that have been happening inside Russia, and there's been more of them than. Yeah, I would say that they are more frequent now than ever, both inside Russian-occupied Ukraine, but also deep into Russia. This might actually have some direct effect when you take out key personnel behind certain programs. Surely that will be a higher, target than a random officer that did commit some war crimes. So I think they do go for the highest value targets. Okay, I think that. Well, no, Callan has a new question. Do you all think the fall of Assad and Syria has a major impact on the Russian Navy? Where will they go? Black Sea, Libya, etc. I have no idea. Where are they going? It looks like they're hanging out in the Mediterranean, a few miles outside Syria, but at the same time, it does not look like those first reports of a deal struck between the Russians and the new government or the people in power in Syria was, had any substance. It seemed like a psychological or some sort of propaganda from the Russians, in my opinion.
Yeah, I totally agree. And for sure, they are not going in the Black Sea because the Turks have an obligation to stop any war ship to coming in. So they are essentially they lost their only warm water port, and this is going to create some issues for their operation in Africa. It's not a drama, but they are for sure then struggling more. And I agree. I don't think the new government has any willing at the moment to engage in negotiation, because you have always to remember that the Russians were bombing them since the day before. I mean, they literally bombed them in Aleppo in open daylight. So they for sure there was a deal to allow them to leave, but more than that, I doubt.
Yeah,
I would add, I don't know what the home port of all of those ships at Tartus is, but if any of those ships, their designated home port is the Black Sea, then Turkey would have to allow them to come back in, but then they wouldn't be able to leave again. So potentially some of those ships can return, but if their home port was not already the Black Sea prior to the start of the war, then they would not be permitted back into the Black Sea, and they would have to go elsewhere. So a question for those that are closely watching all of the Russian naval warships, or I could look it up quickly, but I don't have it in front of me. So it's possible that some of them might return, but I suspect that unless they are forced to bring some of them back because they're not in good shape and they need maintenance and Russia can't afford to get them anywhere else, then they're probably going to want to leave them in the Mediterranean because, as I said, they wouldn't be able to go back out into the Med if they cross through the straits. So if Russia's forced to rebase, then Algeria is probably the most likely place where they could go in the short term. Potentially Libya, although Algeria obviously has probably more facilities available that could host them. So if the reporting about this deal is not true at all, and I don't know, I've seen the reporting saying that they were working on an agreement. I don't know how credible it is or isn't. But if it's not credible, then if I had a bet, I would say Algeria, but it's anybody's guess, really.
Thank you, Colby. Yeah, you're right, because if the ship came from Black Sea, they can anyway return. Yeah, it's only if you are not from that port that you are not allowed, right? Thank you for correcting that.
Yeah, I think that was it. So unless there's any more comments or questions, I think we're gonna call it a quit for tonight. Yep. Well, I've been happy to be stepping in for Joseph. I am not trained in doing all this, thank yous and all, but I'll try. Thanks to everyone that joined the panel, Gao, Gesh, Daniela, Colby. I see Joseph's avatar here. Thank you so much for bringing us the news. Thank you to everyone who followed us. Please, remember to like, subscribe, share. That helps to bring the good message out and the info that we try to convey. Not sure about the staffing the next few weeks, but we'll try to bring news and reports also during Christmas. But I think I will not be available next week, so I will say Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays to everyone that listens in, because I won't be here on next Sunday. So that's it for me. Thank you, and Slava Ukraini.
Heroyam Slava.
On behalf of the brave.